Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sean from planningfire.com here, and today we're going to be talking about popular methods of paying down debt. And really, there's two big players in this space. You have the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. They both have their pros and cons, and we're going to go over those briefly in this discussion. So let's talk about the debt snowball. It's basically exactly what it sounds like. You're going to take all of your loans, and you're going to be making minimum payments on each and every one of those. The last thing you want to do is pay any penalties or go into default because you're not paying a loan. So if it's feasible, you're paying off at least the minimum payment on each loan. And then from there, you're going to take the smallest amount loan you have, the smallest dollar amount. So if you have 5 loans ranging from $1,000 to $10,000, start with that $1,000 loan. And you're going to make additional payment into that principal for as much as you can. So let's say at the end of your month, you have your budget down and you know you have an extra $100 that's not being allocated towards an emergency fund, savings, or tax advantage account. You're going to take that extra $100 and pay it to that loan. So you're paying all the minimum payments plus an extra $100 to the lowest amount payment. And then once that's paid off, you continue to take that extra $100 plus the minimum payment that you got before, and you add that to your next smallest loan. And again, and this payment gets larger and larger as you go up in the size of the loan. The debt snowball has a huge psychological advantage. A lot of times when you're looking at loans and you're having 30-year payment periods or 30-year paybacks, 25-year paybacks, even 15-year paybacks, it could be a long time before you see any of these close. And if you're buried under this debt, it can be really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But this snowball, you make notable gains until you reach the end of a single loan payment, and then you move on. It gives you that big win as soon as possible to make you have some motivation to keep moving forward. However, the debt snowball has one major problem. Because you're not considering the actual interest rate on the loan, the math isn't in your favor, and I'm a big fan of when math works out for me. Because you have higher interest rate loans in the background, accruing interest, it's going to be more difficult to pay off those higher rate loans because they have more interest accrued on them. So that's where it brings us to our second method, the debt avalanche. The debt avalanche is almost exactly the same as the debt snowball in principle. You're going to focus on one loan, pay it off as soon as you can, and then move on to the next one. However, the key difference here is that what you're going to do is you're actually going to leverage interest rate as your primary factor, as opposed to dollar amount. So you're going to take a look at your loans, prioritize them by interest, and pay off the highest interest rate loan first. Once you've done that, you're going to take that payment plus the minimum payment and roll that onto the next highest one. So of course the pros here, the math is actually working in your favor. So you're taking that highest rate loan and you're getting rid of it as soon as possible. Normally this is going to be something like credit cards, which have an excessively high interest rate. And then you're taking it and paying down the next highest thing, perhaps a car loan, perhaps a student loan. You're paying down the next highest thing. So your first win may be further off, but in reality you're saving much more money in the long run. So it really depends on where you find it necessary. Do you want to be the most effective at paying off the loans, or perhaps you're so overwhelmed by the amount of loans and the amount of debt you have that you need to get that win quickly? Now, I don't necessarily think this needs to be a binary choice. It doesn't have to be a snowball or an avalanche. The way I recommend paying off loans is take a look at the loans and kind of order them out. What's the highest interest rate, the lowest interest rate? Let's start with that math win. However, if 2 of them are close, let's say you have one at 26% interest and one at 20% interest, 2 separate credit cards. But the one at 20% interest is only $500, and the one at 26% is $5,000. Get that psychological win. If it's that close, realistically speaking, pay off that $500 first. Know that you're making great strides towards paying off your debts. Because honestly, for every dollar you pay off on your debts, you're really making that money back in theory because you're no longer paying it to interest. And paying into interest really is like lighting your money on fire. Tax money goes to schools, roads, public service programs, and similar. But interest is just going to companies, big banks. You're basically lighting that money on fire because it's a post-tax, post-payment principal deduction. Honestly, think about your debts, line them up, and just start paying them off. Once you have a plan, stick to it, keep executing, and best of luck. Until next time.